Hey, everybody. Getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest 140. How about let's do it? Got a big surprise here. So let's do the show. All right, here we go. Where did I just lose that? Oh, where'd that go? Why is that? Okay, here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 140 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast that you can find Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday over at beourguestpodcast.com and wherever you find great podcasts. And there are many other great shows that I enjoy listening to, and I hope you enjoy listening to ours alongside your favorites as well. We're recording this show on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, just for prosperity's sake there, in case you're listening later on. Hope you're doing well. It is a nice first Tuesday of spring here in St. Peters, Missouri. Hopefully it is a great day for you. It has just started raining outside the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios window, which is kind of nice because it is spring. I see some birds flying into a birdhouse in the neighbor's backyard, which is a good sign of spring. So not bad. It's about 55 degrees, so not too chilly, and things are going well around here. So hopefully it's going well for you as well. And glad to have you here. And thank you as always so much for your support of the show. So what's been going on around here? Let me just tell you something. I was getting ready to record the show about 30 minutes ago, and we got delayed. We had a big delay in the podcast here for about 30 minutes because I was down here in the studio doing, finishing up some. We have a lot of people making final payments for the Be Our Guest podcast cruise that's coming up in July because final payment is later next week. And a lot of folks are, eager beavers there and getting that done early, which I appreciate. Thank you so much, everybody who's doing that early, because I'll be heading to Disneyland next week. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so I'm down here working. It's Mallory's spring break this week. Pam is on spring break next week. So it's a bummer they're not on spring break at the same time. But Pam did take off school today. Don't tell her work, but she did take off today so they could do something together. And so they went to the mall with one of Mallory's friends from high school, and they just got back. And so I could, they're upstairs, the studio's downstairs. I hear people walking around upstairs. I'm just down here working, finishing up some work so I can have fun and record the show. And so I get ready. I'm literally, pulling up Adobe Audition to record the show, getting YouTube ready because that's where I record the video for the show. I'm getting the headphones ready, getting all the levels set as I do for every podcast. I pull the headphones and I hear Mallory upstairs just start screaming, "Mom, mom, mom." And I hear Riley going crazy. Riley, because she was sitting next to me like 2 seconds before that. She was laying on the blanket in my office here next to me. She disappeared on me somehow. And so I start freaking out. I couldn't record the show because I'm like, what's going on? Like, is Pam sick? Is she having a heart attack? What's happening? Well, we got a big surprise. Paige shows up at the front door just 30 minutes ago. So it's always awesome. We have all four of us under the same roof again. And I think I've talked about this here on the show before. That as a parent, one of the best feelings in the world is when your entire family is under the same roof or you're traveling together as a family again. That is the best thing. So as you know, if you follow me on social media, on Twitter or on Instagram pages, basketball team, the University of Illinois Chicago Flames, just wrapped up their basketball season. They had a postseason tournament down in Lexington, Kentucky, and they ended Sunday on a high note with a big victory. And 19 win season. So we're very proud of them, but apparently, season is over for them. So I guess they have a little bit of time off. Paige said she has to go back to Chicago on Saturday. They have a recruit visiting. So she gets to be back in St. Louis here for a few days. And that is great. That is awesome. But she didn't tell us she was coming home. So, 30 minutes ago, I had my normal Tuesday plans, right? I'm here in my sweats and getting ready to record a podcast and bam, she's here. So We already told her she gets to pick dinner tonight. So we're going to go to dinner wherever she wants. It's all going to be all about her. So we're excited for that. Mallory's got a tumbling lesson from 4 to 5. So Pam's going to take her to the tumbling lesson at the gym because tryouts for high school cheer happen here soon in the next few weeks. So she's kind of refining her skills there. But yeah, super excited. So it's one of those things where, you think it's a regular Tuesday and then all of a sudden things turn up rosy, so sometimes God gives you blessings and things happen. And, it isn't a normal Tuesday. It's a great Tuesday. I mean, every day is a gift, right? But today's a special gift. So we're glad to have everybody back under the same house. Riley's super excited to have her mom back. Riley was kind of going crazy too. That's why she was going nuts when she saw her mom walking up the front yard, up the driveway as we were. So pretty cool day. And if you're a parent, again, I love your feedback every week. So again, patreon.com/BeOurGuest podcast. This is almost like the old Folgers commercial. Well, see if you're like, is it Folgers or was it Maxwell House? This is how old I am, right? This is a Mike in the Midwest topic because it's retro topics, old stuff. Remember that old, topic where the kid would come home at Christmas and he snuck in the house and he made the coffee and the parents are upstairs in the 2-story house and they're like, I smell coffee. And I guess it was Folgers, because the best part of waking up was Folgers in your cup. And like they wake up and he's downstairs and hadn't seen him because he was off at school or something. That's kind of that moment, but there was no coffee involved. It was just Mallory freaking out and saying that Paige is home. So I'm pretty excited. If you're a parent, you get it. So if you ever had one of those moments, let me know. Share that with us for next week's feedback. And also get your feedback in a little bit early this week if you can, because I might record this show later for next week, actually later this week, because next week's going to be nuts. I leave 5 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday to go to Disneyland. So Tuesday is going to be kind of hectic. So I might record it. Monday, I can't do this because I already have 2 podcasts for the regular big show, but I might do it later this week. So if you get your feedback in soon, that would be great. You guys are the best. Thank you. Because I need feedback and I love you. I don't need it, but I love it. So if you get that in, that'd be great. Let's see what else is going on. We have our shows out for this week. Listener questions coming your way tomorrow. Ricky and Pam join me this week. So Rick, I don't know, is Ricky a robot or what? I mean, she just had a kid like 3 weeks ago and she's doing podcasts. I thought she'd be gone for like a couple months. I don't know. She's here and she's on her game. So she answers questions with us. Pam, just so you know, she was not with us last week because Pam took a fall and really messed up her ankle and her leg, but she's back. So we are a big mess. We talked about last week, the podcast has been going for 15 years. Obviously, we're getting older as podcasters because I have a bad back. I told you guys that I fell right before I took Mallory up to the cheer competition in Chicago, chasing down a piece of the gutter in the backyard. I slid down the hill in a rainstorm. My back is still jacked up, my back and my hip. I still haven't run because the 3 times I ran since the next day, I can't hardly take a deep breath. And so I've just backed off the running for a little while because I got Spring Surprise, but it's only a 10-mile run. So I think I can handle that. I'll probably run a couple times before that, but it's just, it's not worth it. I just walk a lot just to try to keep the cardio a little bit up. But yeah, we have one that had a baby, one that fell, and I'm still in bad shape. So yeah, we're sticking the shows on your feed as best we can, but we're playing through injuries for you. And it's because we're getting older. We're doing stupid stuff. We're just going out to get the mail and chasing down a piece of our gutter. We are the old podcast. We used to be the young up and comers. Now we're coming to you from the old folks home, it feels like at times. But thanks for being there with us. We appreciate you. We love you guys. So what else? Wine and Dine registration was today. So congratulations to everybody who got their races. I hope you got in a 5K, 10K challenge with Figment. I saw a lot of success stories there. So we're excited for that. We're excited for the Be Our Guest podcast cruise for those that are sailing with us. A lot of folks making those final payments this week. Again, like I said, when I do that, I'm so excited because I know that I get to sit down and, have pizza, and on this ship, we'll get to have some, nachos, and because there's a Mexican cantina, we'll get to hang out poolside. We'll get to hang out on the beach at Castaway Key. We'll get to really know each other more than just through social media, through emails, and through feedback during the live shows. It's going to be fun because we're going to get to hang out and make true memories. Hopefully the kids will all get to hang out together, get to have common things, that they find out, well, we're from different parts of the country, but we have this in common. I think that'll be really cool because kids can make friends really fast, just like the adults. I really enjoy that. So I'm super excited for about sailing with us. We're going to do everything we can to make this the most amazing adventure for everybody. So once we get through these final payment days here at the end of the month, beginning of next month, Pam Forrester kind of takes over. She has connections at Disney Cruise Line. She speaks with them and works with trying to get us some private events. We've done that for the first 5 cruises. Tries to get everybody kind of in the same area on the same rotation for dining. She does everything she can. I mean, Disney Cruise Line can't do everything for us, but she's going to do everything we can to make this a very special cruise like she has 5 times before. And it's always been amazing. So I'm sure it will be again this time. So let's see what else. Oh, Friday show, just so you know, when you're ready to listen to it, don't listen to it if you're on an empty stomach or if you're exercising, because it's all about food. We talk about the new foods coming to Walt Disney World, like that new Electro Bites at Tomorrowland and stuff we're going to get there, like donut holes that are covered with mocha sauce. I'm totally looking forward to them. Pam talks about the signature dining location that's coming back off a refurb and what she's excited to get at that with the new menu updates. I talk about desserts at Disney Springs, just lots of it's where to get good eats at Walt Disney World is the title of the show. So just kind of know that it's a fun one. And I want to hear your feedback there. Like, what's your go-to? Like, what have you not had yet at Walt Disney World that you're really excited for? It could be a new thing. There's a lot of new things to try out all the time, right? It's like maybe you see it on social media, like, oh God, I can't wait to have that on my next trip. Or what's something that's maybe been there for a decade and for some reason or another, you've just never had it. I know people that have never had the Nutella waffle at Sleepy Hollow. That sucker's been there for a decade, but maybe you just never get it because you have another favorite that's in another part of the park. I tend to always get the sweet cream. No, yeah, the sweet cream cheese pretzel at Lunching Pad over in Tomorrowland. I love that thing. It's so good, but a lot of people don't know about that because it's kind of salty and sweet at the same time. Oh, it kind of fills you up too, and it's not a horribly, terribly, like, unhealthy snack, kind of probably is, but I tell myself it's not, but, it's one of those snacks that I just love to get, and you just really can't get it anywhere else. So it's one of those go-tos for me. I don't think I brought that up on the show, but that's what's coming your way on Friday. Hope you enjoy the show, so give us feedback there. All right, let's hit the feedback from last week. I just kinda gave some memories and some thoughts on the 15 years of the BOGP. Thank you, each and every one of you, for allowing us to have millions and millions of downloads over the years. That's pretty cool. But more importantly, it's the relationships, it's the friendships, it's the laughs, it's the memories that we get to share on Mondays, all those trip reports. I mean, we've done so many trip reports and I've loved them because I learned from everybody's, that comes on the show on Monday and talks about their trip. Wow, I didn't think to do that. Or that's very unique how you plan that trip or how you broke the news to the kids. That's super cool. I love that stuff. But also, it's more. I was like laughing along with the guests. A kid did this. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Your kids are hilarious. Your kids are geniuses. I love that stuff. And I hope you've always enjoyed those Monday shows, the Wednesdays where we answer questions, and Fridays where we just kind of, we just have fun. We try to start the weekend by talking about a topic and having a good time with it. All right. Trisha gives us some feedback up in Wisconsin and says, I've been a listener most of my daughter's life. When she was really young, my husband and I had the talk, at what age do we take her to Disney World? While in the early stages of planning the trip, I discovered the Be Our Guest podcast and have been a loyal listener ever since. My favorite members are, my favorite memories are, oh, hang on. Yes, hang on. My favorite memories are
Goofy with a chainsaw.
ringing the bell every time someone, usually Ricky, mentions charcuterie, and the catchphrase that just didn't quite make it to a t-shirt, have a magical freaking day. Thanks for building a community, Mike. That's awesome. No, see, we the Patreon right there helped us get a new mixer. It wasn't really for the toys like that. It was more for the better sound quality. But when I saw that it had the deep, when I could
talk like this for Goofy with a chainsaw next Halloween. You know
that didn't hurt to make the purchase there for next Halloween. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So Trisha, thank you so much, and I'm glad you've been with us for so long. I know Mallory's getting her driver's permit this week over her spring break. She was 2 months old when the show started. 2 months old. Yes, I'm old. It's crazy. Thanks, Trisha. Amy Rivers, I enjoyed this episode. Not sure how long I've been a listener, maybe 8 years. You did book our 2017 trip in 2021 and our upcoming 2023 trip. I listen to several other podcasts on other topics, and a lot of them run ads. Do you purposely not run ads? Or maybe you just haven't had the opportunity? Just curious. Thanks, Mike. So, Amy, that's good. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. We have had ads over the years. Way back in the day, we had ads for let's see, I'm trying to think of some of our sponsors. We had touring plans. Back in the day, whenever we do that, we had a bell, touringplans.com. Back we did that for a while. We had actually running, what was it called? The Running Buddy. It was a runner's pouch. And I still use mine when I run. It's a great product. I believe in it 100%. It's like a little pouch that holds your phone when you run. Um, we had like an insurance agent that sponsored the show for quite a while. Yeah, we've had them, but what I found out was like since COVID and right before COVID, probably like at 2019, I decided that I didn't. And to be honest, I'd rather not have any ads. I know that it's kind of a pain in the butt. There's 2 minutes at the very beginning of the show with ad reads, and there's like a minute and a half at the end of each show with ad reads. I know that's not ideal, but we have to pay the bills. I mean, this podcast literally costs hundreds of dollars every month to host and to pay the bandwidth and all that stuff, which is fine. But that's how we get, when we book vacations and use the Patreon funds, that's what it goes to. So we do have to run the ads. But what I found out was I just use the ads for the Magic for Less because that's what I do for a living. So basically, I don't sell the ads. I sell the ads to myself at this point. It's just easier than having to go out. And I've had people solicit us to run ads on the show. I get that probably once a month, but it's just easier for me. I'm not going to ever run more ads than what we have right now. I'm not going to do the drop in ads like Pod, so all these services will drop in ads. Like I know, like all the shows I listen to do this, and it's not a problem at all. It's just a personal choice. I know that Len, his show does that with it's a service where you put a tone in and it'll drop in, an ad for like Audi cars or, American Express. I just choose not to do that. It's called Pod Sites. I don't use that. I just use, if you could support the Magic for Less and use our Amazon affiliate link and support us here on Patreon, if we can get a certain percentage of the listeners to support us on Patreon, we're good. We're really good. If people book trips with Magic for Less, I'm totally fine. I'm not trying to get rich off this. I'm just trying to make it work. And that's kind of why, I'm not trying to make this into some Spotify top 10 show. I'm just trying to make it something we can all enjoy. But that's a good question, Amy. I appreciate it. Dennis Keithley, my good friend down in Texas by way of Missouri, says, congratulations on 15 years of podcasting, Mike. That's a huge accomplishment. I appreciate your dedication. I've been around for about the last 9 years of the podcast, and it's part of my weekly routine, especially when running, that I can't imagine not having in my life. I can't wait to see what the next 15 years bring. Thanks, Dennis. I appreciate when you say that you take us running, and I know a lot of people do that. That means more to me than you know, because as a fellow runner, I know how hard those miles are every time you go out there, right? Sometimes you're inside, sometimes you're on a treadmill, and the good news about a podcast for me, I've always run to podcasts rather than music, unless it's a race. Like I'll listen to music during like the Walt Disney World Marathon or any races, but during training runs, just here at the house, I need to have somebody like talking me through a story, or a topic. I need a podcast because it takes my mind off the miles and it lets me kind of keep up with, because this is going to sound dumb, but maybe you'll relate to it as a podcast listener, is that many times I feel like I know the podcaster like a friend, even though I've never met them. Now, luckily, a lot of my podcast people that I listen to, I've listened to them for so long, I've got to casually meet them in certain circumstances. Like I've met Len a couple times at Walt Disney World, just in passing. We're not friends, but I've, talked to him and thanked him for the shows back in the WDW Today days. And I think I've met him a couple other times here and there. I've met Jim Hill at a media event one time, just thanked him for all of his writings that he's done over the years and all he does, because he has a really funny sense of humor. I appreciate him. I've got to meet, Matt Hotchberg. I got to meet Scopa many times at races. I've met Leo Laporte, who I really, kind of not idolize, but I really try to emulate his professional style of podcasting because he really started it back in 2004. I got to meet him he came to St. Louis in 2020, in March of 2020, right as the pandemic was starting. he was going to a tech company, which was 10 minutes away from my house. And the night before, he was giving a talk there. And the night before, he and one of his other co-hosts, Alex Lindsay, who actually worked for Lucas, and he actually was the person who drew and on the computer did Queen Amidala's spaceship in Phantom Menace. He's a big computer guy. They were going to a place called Worldwide Technologies, which is right 10 minutes from my house. But the next day, he was obviously those two were doing a talk. But the night before, they were doing like a fan meetup for people in Missouri or St. Louis that listen to his This Week in Tech podcast, his podcast network, at a bar called the Trainwreck Saloon. So I went in there and, basically it's a bunch of nerds who listen to tech podcasts and in a bar, but I got to meet him and thank him for, the inspiration for this having somebody over all these years. I've listened to him for like 15 years, and I used to watch him on a cable channel called Tech TV back when I was in college in the 90s. He was, on cable TV doing a show called Ask the Tech Guy and, all these shows and Call for Help and stuff like that when computers were in their infancy. And it was great just to shake his hand and kind of tell him that, I get to do a podcast basically for a living, along with being a travel agent now because of the kind of doing what he does. And it was very cool. And he's my dad's age. And it was just fun. He'll never remember me, but I remember that. And I gave him a couple of like Be Our Guest podcast things. He probably threw them in the trash. He probably didn't even take them back to San Francisco with him or Petaluma, but it was fun for me to get a picture with him and just thank him for the inspiration. So that's kind of the cool thing. Yeah, and I hope that we have another 15 years, Dennis. Let's hope. And I know you're a podcaster too, so I appreciate everything you do too, because it takes all of us. Because as a podcaster, I get a huge kick out of being a consumer of podcasts as much as I do being a producer of podcasts. I like being able to do both. I love my time behind the mic, but I also love my time putting in the AirPods and just saying, where am I going to go today? What are they going to talk about? What journey are they going to take me on today? That's kind of cool too. All right. John Luther has our final piece of feedback for today. He says, congratulations on 15 years of the podcast. I'm not sure to say how long I've been listening. My wife first discovered BOGP in 2016 while we're planning our first trip. I'll just sit in the car with her while we were driving around, but she was the Disney planner in the family then. It was 2021, a month or two after I joined the Lizards upon her suggestion, when I started listening on my own. The Disney planner label has shifted to me now, though. Ooh, you have taken the reins, John. No, thank you so much. I'm glad you both listen. That's cool that you guys listen together, because my wife doesn't listen to the Be Our Guest podcast. But again, she says she gets it 24/7. I tell my wife that she's the ultimate patron without having to pay. Like, I tell her she gets all the behind the scenes, like Mike in the Midwest 24/7. And she says she would pay to not get Mike in the Midwest 24/7. So that's her take on things. Just kidding. But I think your significant other would probably understand what I'm saying. All right, let's talk about today's topic. I want to bring this to you. It's a little behind the scenes for the Be Our Guest podcast. So you guys know about 3-4 months ago, I set up a new studio. Finally, after almost 15 years of doing the show, I got a room to do the show in, with a door, with my shelves behind me, with tumblers, with a couple popcorn buckets, with my ears that I've earned from completing the marathons. I have a place that I can call the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios. I have a room. I have a mini fridge with Coke Zeros. And as we came in here, it was Paige's old bedroom, but she moved to Chicago, so I got this. And it's perfect because it's in the corner of the basement. It's a great studio. I'm so thankful for this room. And I've got my picture of my grandparents up on the wall behind me here, their wedding day, and my grandpa when he was 3 years old with his twin sister in Kentucky. That picture was taken in 1924. I love that. It shows where I come from. But the thing is, so as I sit here and podcast, I have the two huge monitors right in front of me. One of them always is showing Adobe Audition, so I can see my levels and everything that's happening. The other monitor shows the video feed, the comments that are coming in during a show. It'll show a window with, if we're doing listener questions, the inbox and stuff like that. But on the wall, which are my other three walls, besides the white one you see behind me, are Mizzou gold, which I love. It's the old gold from Mizzou glory days. But the wall that I'm looking at behind the monitors, I got a really cheap 55-inch flat screen TV on Amazon for like $200, like a TCL on a special. And so my brother-in-law came over and helped. This was a whole episode too. Helped us mount this thing on the wall, which we found out that our basement doesn't have wood studs, it has metal studs. And it said not to mount this TV on metal studs, but we had already drilled holes and had to purchase the mounting hardware before that. So it's mounted onto the metal studs and it's hanging. It's been hanging here for a few months, but I just don't touch it. So we'll see. So if you ever notice during the shows, especially on Sunday nights when football's on during football season, right above my, you probably can't tell, but it's right above my camera. Like right now, if you're looking at the feed, I'm looking at a TV. And so one thing that I typically have um going if I'm not watching a sport on the TV while we're recording is an app called Pluto TV. And on Pluto TV, there's a channel. There's a Love Boat channel that has all Love Boat episodes 24/7. And I'll watch that one frequently because that's one of my favorite all-time shows, Love Boat. I just think it's great because I love 70s stuff. I love those old actors. I love that it's kind of wholesome but kind of edgy at the same time. And I love cruising. I love travel, obviously. But there's also a show I want to talk to you about today. And there's a channel that shows The Amazing Race 24/7. Now, as you get to be my age in your late 40s, you start to think about things that you've gotten to do in your life. I've been blessed. I've gotten to do many, many cool things in my life. I've gotten to be a dad. I've gotten to be a husband. I have gotten to do a podcast for 15 years. I've gotten to work as a travel agent, which is a blessing. I've gotten to be a teacher. I taught school for 17 years. I got to teach at Space Camp for 2 summers. And when I did that, I got to teach the teachers of the year each summer for a week as they came down. The last week was always Teachers of the Year week and International Teachers of the Year. So I teach the best teachers from all 50 states and the best teachers from various countries around the world: Canada, Singapore, Australia, Japan, Russia. Their teacher was there because we had better relations back then. It was amazing. I've had cool experiences. I've got to go do media events at Walt Disney World because I've just been super lucky and blessed to get to do things like things I never thought I'd get to do. But I still have a bucket list of a few things I would love to do. And one of those is to be a contestant on The Amazing Race. Now, I keep this channel on in my office 24/7 when I'm working. So right now it's on and it's showing season 2 of The Amazing Race. Now I think they've had like 40 seasons or so at this point. So this one's probably from around the early 2000s. So it's a time capsule. So you can kind of look back and see what clothes and hairstyles were popular. You can see the technology when they show like somebody won, they'll show like a cell phone. They still call them mobile phones back then. This was pre-iPhone. But it's cool to see kind of look back and see what the world looked like then, way back in the early 2000s. Here's the thing though. I didn't know about this show when it was first popular. My friend who I taught with across the hall, Dave, who was in my wedding, he taught 5th grade across the hall. He was a huge Amazing Race fan. I was a Survivor fan with Pam. Pam and I were huge Survivor fans. But he's like, "You got to watch this Amazing Race show. You'd love it." And so I did, and I was hooked immediately when I started watching it. But here's the thing. Long-term listeners of the Be Our Guest podcast will know there was an issue with why I could not be on the show for years. I'd watch it, but I said I could never do this show. And I'm a person who loves challenges. I love competition. So I'd have loved 90% of this show. But the issue with this show was I would not fly until about 5 years ago. I would not get on an airplane. I loved watching airplanes. I love the idea of airports and travel, but I had a paralyzing fear of flying. I would not fly. So if you listen to the first 10 years of the podcast, we would drive from St. Louis, is about 1,025 miles from our house to Pop Century. We'd drive in our Chevy Trailblazer every time, 3 or 4 times a year. We'd make that long drive, 15 hours or so. And that was it. That was the only way to get there because I was not going to fly. It was not an option. And God bless my wife and kids because they just did it every time, even though they weren't scared to fly. They just did it for me. But I finally decided I'm just going to have faith and trust and let's do this one wine and dine race weekend. There's the only way I could get there and back and still be able to teach the next Monday. got on an airplane. It wasn't as bad as I thought. And I'll tell you what, now flying is one of my favorite parts of my vacations. I love it. I do. I love it. I love being in airports. I love the excitement of checking in for a flight. I love getting on a flight and having internet on the flight and using FlightAware to see the telemetry of the flight. Mostly, though, I love when you get up there seeing the beautiful geography of our country down below. I love seeing the cloud formations. I love seeing the rivers down below you, the cities at night when you see the pockets of metropolitan areas, small towns, especially around Christmas. You can see like, Christmas lights. It's beautiful. There are storms below you. It's amazing. I was missing out on all that for the first part of my life, and I regret that. I missed that for 20 years because I had a stupid fear that I should have overcome well before that. I was just stubborn. And also that kept me from in the prime, maybe ever doing something like the Amazing Race. And I'll tell you what, the Amazing Race is something that Paige and I, and actually Paige Scott and I on our fantasy we did on the last podcast cruise, there's a port excursion or a port adventure in Cozumel in Mexico. They have an amazing race that you can run around Cozumel is a port adventure where you spend about 6 hours just doing various tasks around the town. And it's based on the Amazing Race. Now I've done that twice. I did it with Paige and I years and years ago. And then we did it again, Paige, Scott, and I as a 3-person team. And I loved it because it was challenges. You had to putt, you had to get a tattoo, like a temporary tattoo. You had to go in a museum and solve some clues. You had to go into the ocean and do snorkeling to find this clue under the water. You had to go into a market and find an egg and crack the egg. And there was a clue in this one, take it to a certain stall. It was awesome because it was very similar to the challenges in the Amazing Race, but it was compacted into like a 6-hour thing. It was hot. It was you got tired by the end, but it was so cool because it gave you that rush and you were up against like 10 other teams. You were like scattered around and you had certain, resources you could use. It was fun. We won both times too, and I'm super competitive, so that was nice. But the thing is, I would love to be on the show, and here's a few reasons why. One is the host. I don't know if you've ever seen The Amazing Race, but it used to air on Sunday nights, which is it's a great Sunday night show because it's always kind of fun to wrap up the weekend and watch these teams. It's 2 teams, or sorry, it's 11 teams of 2. That sometimes they were best friends, sometimes they were, married or dating, or sometimes they were just buds. And so what it is basically, it's a race around the world for $1 million. And you have to get to these pit stops, and there's like 11 legs, 11 or 12 legs. And each time the last team, most legs, the last team to get to the pit stop is eliminated. There's a few legs where it's a non-elimination, but you don't know that when you're going in. And you got to do challenges along the way. It's a pretty simple show. But in the beginning years, so on Pluto TV, they'll show certain seasons, like, because it runs 24/7. But what they'll do, they'll take about 10 seasons and show them for about 3 months. And because a season will run in about a day's time because it runs just back to back to back. So like right now they're showing season 2. So you can watch this whole season. If you binge it, just leave it on all day, it'll finish throughout the day because it's only like 12 hours. But the thing is, in the early days, this race was brutal. They would have to ride a bus for like 21 hours through, Argentina, or they would have to drive a car for, 12 hours. And you just don't realize, like, as they're going through Europe, like how far that is. Now, the race has gotten a lot easier and a lot softer as the years have gone by. But the thing is, I would love to run the race as it was in the early days when it was super hard. And these challenges they are brutal. And they really put them out there where they had to, it was literally figure out your way to get from, say Rio de Janeiro to Johannesburg, South Africa. And they didn't give you much. Nowadays, they pretty much give you, you had to buy your airline tickets and they pay for them, but you had to book your own air. You had to go to the airport. You had to figure everything out. Nowadays, they give you the flights. It's super easy they get you from point to point because they don't want they found out that it got really hard on the production because they would have people, they would get so spread out. These 11 teams early in the race, they would get so spread out that they'd have, 11 crews, and some of the teams would be 3 or 4 days behind the leaders. They would get that far behind because that's the good teams are really good at it, securing flights. The bad teams would, they would, try to go to Johannesburg, but instead of going like taking a direct flight, sometimes they go like by London and then go through London to Johannesburg. There was one team that went to New York. They got stuck in customs. Then they had to go from New York to London, London to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Johannesburg, and they ended up like 2 days behind these grandmas. And so I think they figured out that it's just way more cost effective to have everybody flying together on the same flights, and then let's just figure things out on the let's separate the men from the boys during the challenges, which is probably easier on TV and way easier for production. But I'd like to go back to these early days where you could really spread things out. I'm super competitive. So I would love to be on the show for the competitive aspect and to put myself out there. But another reason I'd like to be on there is because I think with this show, you really make a great you build your relationship with your partner that you run this race with. Now, people ask me, who do I run this race with? I have a lot of good partners I'd love to run this race with. I'd love to run this race with my wife. I don't know that she would like doing this race though. I would, if she would do it, I would love to do it with her, but I just don't think it'd be her thing. Paige would be a great partner because she's athletic, she's super smart, she's good at traveling. And I've done 2 amazing races in Cozumel with her. We're 2-0. I would also run it with Mallory. She's younger. If she was old enough to run it, I'd run it with her. She's athletic. She's competitive. She's hyper competitive. So I do like to do that. But if I had to pick somebody outside of my family, the team that I would like to get, if I had to try to get on the show, like as far as what they might be looking for in casting, Scotty G, right? Could you see a team of, because they always put like the names, Mike and Scott, but then under it'd be like best buds and podcasters, Disney fans, or something like that. Because we've run marathons together, and you wouldn't think about it when you look at us. I'm an old dude, and like we just don't look like your typical like marathoners. When you think about marathoners, you think of people that are like Olympians or something. Like when you show marathoners on TV, you see people like Jeff Galloway, these little 5'3" dudes that are skinny as a rail. Like we just don't. I'm 6'3", like I have terrible knees. Like you look at me, I look like I need a walker. Like we just don't look like your marathoners. But I think we would be, Scott and I, and we probably don't look like great travelers either. We probably don't look like we know what's going on as far as like booking flights, but I think we'd be like stealth really good at it. I think we'd have a shot at beating almost any team out there, because I think we'd also be good at competitions. I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but I think we could hold our own, because I think Scott would bungee jump. Um, I'd be freaked out by that kind of stuff, but I'd do it in a competitive situation. Like if it meant winning or losing, I would do stuff like that. I wouldn't sign up to bungee jump, like to pay money. Like if you took me to Orlando and said, here, do a bungee jump of 500 feet, I wouldn't do it. But if it was like, okay, you're in a race, you got to do this to win, I would probably do it. Um, and I think we'd make good TV, because I think we're good friends and we wouldn't care. And I enjoy being on TV. And one of the reasons I like to do that is because I'd wear Mizzou stuff. I get excited when I see people on TV that are from Missouri, and I like to root for them because they're from my place. And you hardly ever see people from, St. Louis or Missouri on shows like this. It's always people from Hollywood or New York or Florida. I would like to represent my area. But also the host, I mentioned this earlier, Phil Keegan, he just seems like a genuinely nice guy. He's from New Zealand and he's hosted this show the entire time. And I think this show is really his baby. And he just seems super polite. He seems like he's really invested in the show and he cares about the contestants. And I would like to be able to get on the show to show that I've been a lifelong fan of the show. I love it. I respect the game. And I would love to just have a shot at it. And the thing is, win or lose, I'd respect the show. Because the thing is, I've seen teams that get eliminated on the first leg. 11 teams, they're the first team out. They come in 11th place, but they still get to run one leg of the race, because you got to at least run one leg to get eliminated. So that means you get to get in the car, you get to rip a couple of the clues, you get to go with your significant other to the airport, you fly to the first destination, you do a few challenges. And if you come in last, you come in last. What I find out is even the teams who get eliminated first, they grow in their relationship with their partner, whether it's their significant other, their kids, their best bud, whatever it is. They have a story to tell, even in one leg. And then, of course, it gets better if you do more and more legs, you have more stories to tell. And forever, you're going to have that camaraderie with your cast that you competed with. I would think that'd be cool down the line. And you'd have the story for the rest of your life. Like, I ran the amazing race. So here's my thing. And this is a super long shot. Here's the one thing: I don't even have a passport. You have to have a passport to apply for the show, obviously, because you travel the world. I need to get on that, which I need to do soon. But here's the thing: if there was ever a way to get cast for the show, I would drop everything to get on the show. It would be amazing. That would be because there's a few things when you get to be my age that like you just have that dream that's still I've gotten to have so many of my dreams, so many of them. I've had way more of my dreams come true than I could have ever wished for. I am super lucky. I'm luckier than I deserve. I get that. I feel bad even putting this out there that I still have something that I wish for. But this is one of those things that I really it just sticks with me. I would love to run the amazing race to get to do the things because they have access to do things in cool. I mean, to get to go to the places they go, to go to Egypt and you're safe because you're in a competition show, to go to Paris, to go to the Great Wall of China, to go to Japan, to do stuff in Tokyo. Because a lot of this stuff's like, silent disco dancing. And I mean, I wouldn't do that on my own, but I would do it in a competitive situation and I'd have so much fun with it. Australia, how cool would that? What a story you would get to make. So here's my thing. If any of you ever had a connection, hook me up. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. You probably don't, but I would do anything to get on the Amazing Race. Really, truly. I think I would be good TV. I think that if you put me and Scott on the show or any of my, other partners that I mentioned, I think we would represent the show well, represent Missouri and Michigan well, represent ourselves well and the show. And we would have a good time. We might get eliminated first. I'm not saying we'd win, but we'd give 100% effort for sure. I guarantee you that. But the other thing is, what an adventure. What an adventure. And I'm not the youngest person in the world anymore, but I still think I have a race in me, even at my age. I think I could do it. I can still run a marathon. I think I could do this. So here's my question for you as I wrap up today's very long show. What's your thing that crawls at you still, that you still want to do, that you maybe have had for a decade or more in the back of your head? Like, I still want to do that. It's a long shot. It'll probably never happen. I know I'll probably never ever be on the Amazing Race, but God, if I ever was, you couldn't wipe the smile off my face. There's so many things I still in life that's true of right now. Podcasting. I love doing this show. You can't wipe the smile off my face when I get to do this show every week. I love it. But that'd be another thing. That'd be awesome. So what is it for you? Is there something that you've always wanted to do that's kind of crazy, that's nuts, that I want to do this show? What's your thing that you want to do that's still in the back of your mind? I want to hear your story. Please share it with me. Patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. Again, get it in early because I might record next week's show at the end of this week because of going to Disneyland on Wednesday. All right. I got to scoot. Unfortunately, not going on the Amazing Race this week, but maybe someday. There's always hope. I hope you guys are having a great week. We'll talk to you next week. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.